Now, Anthony, we have exchanges and venues that think they have enough critical mass to sort of take over the world and be the only next big thing in financial services. But if we're really looking at, private market assets, no one actually has more than a few percentages. And so how do we join up those pools of liquidity? And more importantly, maybe what happens if we don't?
Yeah, thank you. So we're at a really interesting time in the industry, I think. We've had this tokenization technology for a few years, and it's been embraced by many institutions and digital leaders setting up digital exchanges, etc. And lots of assets are now being tokenized, I would say, to the extent that we almost have an oversupply of tokenized assets. But the issue everybody started to run into is, okay, that's great. But how do you bring market participants together, and how do you achieve a market-wide level of distribution? Because ultimately it's not about the asset, it's about the client that wants to invest in the asset, right? So it's how do you get an environment where investors, wherever they may be, can access assets wherever they may be? And personally, I don't think that's going to work in an environment where you're asking the investors to onboard and KYC where all the assets are that they want to get access to. So I think there are exchanges out there, and I don't think all of them think they're going to take over the world, but I think there are exchanges that are starting to get a level of traction. They have assets and investors, and we have large institutions now distributing tokenized assets. But ultimately, I think all of these entities understand that they need market-wide scale of distribution. You're never going to get enough assets and enough investors in one environment to achieve scale and liquidity. In fact, finance doesn't really work like that. You actually, the assets get represented by institutions, issuing agents. Investors, the ones we're talking about, could be very sophisticated, accredited investors, but they don't want to know about technology. They connect through their wealth managers, hedge funds, private banks, etc. And through them, they get access to the investors. So I think it's opening up this distribution is about how do we take all these environments, call them pools of liquidity, and how do we connect them together? And we firmly believe at Onera that, and we've seen this pattern in capital markets historically, is you want to start to connect these pools of liquidity peer-to-peer. And if you can connect them peer-to-peer, you're not creating one centralized venue in the middle of everything. It's not going to work like that. But if you can connect these pools of liquidity peer-to-peer, whether they're exchanges, whether they're large institutions issuing, distributing assets, and whether they're large pools of investors, if you can connect them peer-to-peer, then you can start to unlock this space at a global level. And so we think that's the way to do it.
Well, we did hear someone say earlier today that interoperability is solved by Onera, so maybe.
It is.